Whoo! Fresh off of last night's midnight thriller between the Cowboys and the Steelers, let's go ahead and get right into the Week 5 recap. Let's go. And let's start right there in Pittsburgh, where this game may not go down in history, but Dallas found a way to get it done, winning 20-17 over the Pittsburgh Steelers on a late touchdown. I'm talking last play of the game type shit. Jalen Tolbert caught the game-winning touchdown with only 20 seconds left. But the bigger story in my eyes, neither team is playing like a Super Bowl contender. Hell, neither team is playing like a playoff contender. Dallas had 3 turnovers and 11 penalties. Again, steadily leading the league in penalties. And this is year after year. And for me, penalties is coaching. I'll say this, a bright spot, TJ Watt continues to dominate on defense. He's done this ever since he's come into the league. He had a sack and a half last night and 8 tackles. He's proven to be one of the most unstoppable defenders in the game. But looking on the other side of the ball, Pittsburgh passing attack is in trouble. I don't know if Justin Fields can fix this or if it's going to need to be Russell Wilson, but Justin only threw for 127 yards. They need more firepower if they wanted to compete with top teams. The Cowboys host the Lions next, and the Steelers host the Raiders. On to the Ravens and Bengals. At first, I thought this game was going to be a blowout, the way things were going, but in an OT thriller, the Ravens came back to beat the Bengals 41-38. Lamar Jackson racked up 400 total yards, and Joe Burrow threw for 392 and 5 touchdowns. This game had firepower on top of firepower. Both quarterbacks really put on the show, but the Ravens came out on top thanks to a missed field goal by Cincinnati in OT. Looking at the game, Lamar Jackson is quietly having another MVP caliber season, leading Baltimore back to the AFC North contention with this clutch win. I know I don't need to talk about it, but that play he had where he dropped the ball, ran sideways, ran to the right, and still got a touchdown out of it, that might be the best play I've seen, hell, in a long time. One thing that Baltimore has to do is their pass defense continues to be a major issue. They're going to need to address this if they're going to want to beat top teams in the future. They allowed Joe Burrow to carve them up for almost 400 yards through the air. Next week, the Ravens host the Commanders, and the Bengals play the Giants. Now, on to the Cardinals and Niners. I'll say Arizona pulled off a huge upset. It really looked like San Francisco was running away with this when the score was 23-10. The Cardinals capitalized on 3 second-half turnovers to steal the win, while the Niners' front 7 struggled to get pressure on Kyler Murray. I guess a plus from this game is Brandon Ayuk had a standout performance for the Niners, catching 8 passes for 147 yards. They needed him to act like the #1 receiver, considering they paid him all that money. The problem is San Francisco's defense was supposed to be elite, but they only managed to sack Murray 1 time and couldn't generate any pressure all game. They're going to have to pick it up because they play Geno Smith and the Seahawks next week while the Cardinals visit the Packers. Boy, oh boy, Sean McDermott is going to have to answer some questions. That time management at the end, that's the type of stuff that gets you fired in the NFL. And that really led the game to end in a dramatic finish. Kaimi Fairbairn nailed a 59-yard field goal to lift the Texans over the Bills 23-20 in the closing seconds. Stefon Diggs got his revenge on his former team, catching 6 balls for 82 yards in the win. He has 245 yards in just the last 3 games. And for the Bills, Josh Allen had one of his worst games of his career, completing just 9 of 30 passes for 131 yards. Buffalo needs to fix their offensive struggles if they want to be considered as a top team in the NFL. The Bills play the Jets next, while the Texans play the Patriots. On to the Packers and Rams. The Packers held on to beat the Rams 24-19 despite a wild pick 6 by Jordan Love. Green Bay is now 3-2 and keeping pace in the NFC North, while the Rams' playoff hopes are already fading in its Week 5. They're now 1-4. For the Packers, tight end Tucker Kraft really had a breakout game, racking up 88 total yards and 2 touchdowns. They do have a bye week next week, and then the Packers do host the Cardinals. On to the Commanders, because Jaden Daniels, Coco. I'm mad. I started Josh Allen this week over Jaden Daniels and lost by 2 points. Nah, hey, listen, Jaden's cold, and I won't make that mistake again. Washington crushed Cleveland 34-13 as Jaden continues to impress all of us. The Commanders are now 4-1. They lead the NFC East, and the Browns' offense remains stuck in neutral with Deshaun Watson struggling yet again. Like I said last week and the week before that, I'm going to continue to say this. That is the worst trade in NFL history and the worst contract in NFL history by the Cleveland Browns. Their offensive line is a mess. They allowed 7 sacks against Washington. Deshaun Watson is a mess. He looks like he doesn't even want to play anymore. There was a highlight where the team wanted to go for it on 4th down, and Deshaun Watson basically said, nah, we're good. We're just going to get away. We're going to get out of here if we can with our health. He got to go. Get him out. He got to go. Before moving on, any team that is in need of a wide receiver, they need to go get Amari Cooper right now. They need to go get him. I can almost guarantee you they will get him for a good price. The Browns take on the Eagles next, and Commanders play the Ravens at home, which that's going to be a game. That'll be game of the week next week, guaranteed. On to the Bears and Panthers, where Chicago looked sharp as hell, and Caleb Williams put on his best rookie performance yet. He led the Bears to a 36-10 blowout win over the Panthers. He threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, while DeAndre Swift put another great game together, putting up 166 total yards, which, if they can do this week in and week out, be ready, because they're going to be something to play with. With that performance, Swift is starting to live up to his new contract. That's back-to-back impressive performances that really followed a slow start. And Andy Dalton really started looking like the Andy Dalton that we know, throwing for just 74 yards. The Panthers are going to need Andy to perform at a higher level, especially since they benched Bryce Young and don't really look to be turning to him anytime soon. DJ Moore had 5 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. If he and Caleb Williams can continue to stay on the same page, like I said, man, the Bears going to be something to play with. The Falcons see the Panthers next week, and the Jaguars play the Bears. All right, on to the Giants and Seahawks. I'm going to just be real. I can't believe Giants won that game. I just, props to them, because they did bounce back with a solid 29-20 win over the Seahawks. Daniel Jones had probably his best performance this year. He threw for 257 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the Giants defense also stepped up, forcing critical stops on Seattle's key drives. The best performance in my eyes was the Giants running back, Tracy Jr. He had a breakout game. He took over the rushing duty since Devin Singletary was out, but he put up 130 yards on 18 carries. I can almost guarantee this will start to get him a little bit more play with the first team. And I don't know how, but Seattle's pass defense continues to struggle. They allowed Jones to carve them up. That's 2 rough weeks in a row for the Seattle secondary that was supposed to be one of the best, as well as their defensive line that was supposed to be one of the deepest. They need to have a crazy bounce-back game next week, but they do play the Niners, and the Bengals see the Giants at home. Now let's go check out Bo Nix and the Broncos, because they really beat the brakes off the Raiders. Denver could be like another win with a 34-18 victory over the Raiders. Bo Nix did struggle, but the Broncos defense carried the team with another strong performance. Patrick Surtain had 2 interceptions and 1 went to the house. Meanwhile, Las Vegas has to take a long, hard look at its future, and the season is really starting to slip away. How do you go into the season with Aiden O'Connell and Garner Minshew as your starting cornerbacks and be like, Super Bowl bound, baby? Let's go. It doesn't make sense to me. I'll say this. Vance Joseph deserves some credit for keeping the Denver defense in every game they've played this year. Patrick Surtain continues to shine. He is a true lockdown corner, and nobody wants to see him. I'm trying to tell you, he is straight up locking boys down this year. He's probably the best corner that we have in the league right now. And again, Las Vegas decision-making is questionable at best. Antonio Pierce's choices in critical moments on and off the field surrounding Devontae Adams trade rumors aren't helping either. They look to bounce back against the Steelers next week while the Chargers host the Broncos, which that's going to be a game. Believe that. On to the Jags and Colts, where the Jaguars really tried to give this game away. Trevor Lawrence celebrated his 25th birthday with a big win, leading the Jacksonville Jaguars to their first victory of the season. He threw for 371 yards and 2 tutties, which was much needed by him if they were going to pick up this win. The Colts are going to be kicking themselves in the you-know-what for letting this one slip away. They missed multiple chances to get this dub, but they just couldn't get it done. A player I'm starting to love to watch is Brian Thomas Jr. He had a spectacular 85-yard touchdown reception and is quietly having a great season as a rookie for the Jags. I feel like it's the same thing over and over again with the Colts. Their defense is continuing to be a liability. They allowed 500 total yards in this game. The Colts go to Tennessee to see the Titans next, and the Jaguars are at the Bears. And for the award of most boring game of the week, ding, 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 Dolphins and Patriots. It wasn't pretty, but the Dolphins held on to beat the Patriots 15-10. Tyler Huntley did just enough to secure the win, but the real question for Miami is Tua going to come back, and when will he come back? In my opinion, Buddy needs to chill on it for a little bit. I'm thinking long-term, he needs to chill. But as for the Patriots, they may be looking to make a move on quarterback if things don't improve fast. I can't imagine them throwing Drake into the fire and just feeding him to the wolves, but we've seen it done in the NFL before. And it really did look like that Ramondre Stevenson regained his role as the starting running back. He rushed for 89 yards and scored a 33-yard touchdown. Good thing for Miami, they have a bye week, and then the Patriots host the Texans in Foxborough. On to the Thursday night thriller with the Falcons and Bucks. In a wild overtime game, Kirk Cousins threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns as the Falcons outlasted the Buccaneers 36-30. Tampa Bay really had a chance to win, but couldn't seal the deal in the final minutes, allowing Atlanta to climb to 3-2 and take control of their division. I've been threading this for a while now, but Darnell Mooney has continued to shine for Atlanta. He's quietly having a great season. He had 9 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's becoming a key player in the Falcons offense that no one thought about. Most people thinking about Kyle Pitts and London Drake, but no, Darnell Mooney is the guy who takes the top off the defense and runs the best routes on the roster. Tampa Bay's defense really needs to be addressed, especially with a tough matchup against the Ravens, Chiefs, and 49ers coming up. Where Tampa Bay is excelling at is offense. Baker Mayfield is balling, and he knows exactly how to feed his monsters, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Mike had 5 catches for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin had 5 catches for 64 yards. Mike Evans is one of the most underrated wide receivers ever to play the game. On to the game that was over the pond, because Aaron Rodgers continues to struggle as the Jets lost their 3rd game of the season, falling 23-17 to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, don't get me wrong, Minnesota's cold, but Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions in this game, and 2 of them could have been prevented. Stephon Gilmore continues to show why he's still one of the league's best corners. He makes big clutch plays every game. And for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is going to need to improve fast if he wants the Jets to be in playoff contention. His 5 interceptions in 4 games is a problem, and this needs to be fixed if they're going to win in the future. Sam Darnold probably had his worst performance of the year. He threw the ball 31 times, completing it only 14 for 179 yards and no touchdowns. Luckily for the Jets, they have a bye week, but the Vikings play the Giants, which that'll probably be an easy dub for them. What do you think? And that's a wrap. Another wild week in the NFL, boys and girls. From last-second field goals to high-flying offenses, Week 5 did not disappoint. And as we inch closer to the halfway point of the season, teams are starting to separate themselves. But as always, the NFL has a way of keeping things unpredictable. Next week, we've got even more exciting matchups to look forward to, including some key divisional games that could shake up the standings in 1 week. Can the Ravens continue their hot streak? Will the Cowboys clean up their mistakes? And will the Texans keep willing their way to victories each week? Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay updated with all the latest NFL action. And don't forget to leave a comment on what your favorite game or play was this week. And let us know who you think MVP should be up until right now. I gotta go Lamar. It's gotta be Lamar, right? Thanks for watching. And like I always say, I love y'all. I miss y'all. Come back to the next video.